Hello again, everyone. This is Zombie Kids Rule, and this is the seventh and for now last, um, I guess, addition to the RPG Maker MZ dialogue options tutorials. This is actually more of a it's more of a repeat of some stuff that we've done before. I had actually built these shopkeepers before I added some additional things, and this really is just using again the arrays to randomly select text from an array that you want the NPC to say, and doing it in a couple different ways. So, if you just stumbled across these, please, I hope you watch the other videos. They kind of build off one another, starting from the simplest way of doing dialogue to, more complex ways, if you will. But there's a lot of good options in here that you can play around with. A lot of different ways to do dialogue. You can, making it more random and, you know. I guess making it more varied and things like that. And when you see it in a game, it for me, I like the variety, and I like getting different experiences if I start a new game, or if I'm playing through again, or things like that. So hopefully you'll find this helpful. This will be really short this time. It's really just a refresher of the other videos. So I'm going to show you, or not all the other videos, but more recently the random name array video. And so I'll show you what the shopkeepers are doing. And the first one will go down here. They're all the same. It's going to turn to face me. Ye old shopkeep, welcome to my humble shop. And we get to enter the purchasing, but we can exit that, come back again. So basically, he is just doing a random shopkeeper greeting and a shopkeeper-oriented farewell. The next one is very similar. You notice I named him Arabian Shopkeeper because we're using an array here. Are you looking for anything particular? And then we enter the shop. We enter the shop process, and then come back if you need anything. And again, those are going to be random selections from an array of choices for a greeting and a farewell. And then here again, the same person, and it's essentially the same thing, but it's a different option where we're removing, just like we do with the names in the previous tutorial, we're removing the random option once it's used, so that it can't be repeated until the array is empty. So hello, let me know if you need anything, and we exit out of there. Thanks for stopping by. And so they basically behave the same, very similarly. And so we'll just go ahead and take a look at what they're doing. So for the first one, very, very, very simple, but it's using common events for the shopkeeper greeting and the shopkeeper farewell. And this has been shown multiple times in the previous tutorials. We are essentially going to the common event. We are taking a random text. We are saving it into a variable and showing it as variable 5. So using the shopkeeper greeting and shopkeeper farewell. And the reason I did this originally was because just to demonstrate that you might have groupings of NPCs that might all reasonably have similar things to say, like shopkeepers or innkeepers, or tavern people, or just random NPCs that do things like tell you lore or tell you rumors or things, and things like guards, for instance. Maybe guards all have the similar things that they say. So this is just a nod to the fact that you could have groupings of NPCs where, instead of just doing a generic greeting, a generic farewell, generic type of dialogue, there's a more targeted type of dialogue for them. Shopkeepers normally say a certain thing when you enter their shop, or they normally say a certain type of thing when you leave their shop. So the second option here is again using an array. This is exactly the same as, or at least the beginning is exactly the same as the previous tutorial, when we were using an array to store names, and then we pulled out those names to attribute or assign to the NPC. So here, the first page is going to load the values into those arrays. Variable 8 is the Arabian shopkeeper, and this is basically his greeting. And then variable 9 is going to be the buy, right? The farewell. And if you scroll across here, you can see the options. Welcome to my humble shop. Thanks for stopping by. Greetings. How can I help you? Come back if you need anything, etc., etc. There's only 5 options here. And then we turn the self switch A on because this is an auto run. So as soon as this map loads up, this event runs. It loads up those arrays, and then it turns on self switch, so we can move to page 2, which is an action button. And so that when we engage with this shopkeeper, then it's going to use those same scripts that were in the previous tutorial, except that this version doesn't remove the value, the option, once it's selected randomly. So this will truly be random every single time. So each time you select this NPC, there could be 5 possible greetings, 5 possible farewells. And so we have that first script of words equal math.random int. I'm assuming that's like integer, and then you have in the parentheses, $ game variables dot value 8 is the variable, and then dot length. So this is basically selecting a value from that variable 8, and then the next one, the next script, $game variables set value 5, so that's variable 5, and then $game variables value in parentheses 8, and then in the brackets words. And so this is essentially taking the value of the word that was selected, right, the from the array, and setting it to variable 5. And then we're going to have the shopkeeper say that using variable 5. Of course, this right here /$ is just popping up that how much gold we have. That's one of the options in the text commands to show how much gold we have. The shop processing, of course, I just threw a few items in there. And then it does the exact same thing for the farewell, right? So using variable 9. And then the shopkeeper says something. So that is that middle option, because again, we're not taking away that variable, we're not taking away that array value once it's used, so it will always be random. So if you stick 20 things in here, it will randomly pick from those 20 things each and every time. And then the last option is almost duplicate to the name selection array from the previous tutorial. So very first thing, this page auto runs when the map loads. It sets the values for the array for the variable 8 and 9. It essentially establishes the array, turns on the self switch A, which moves us to page 2. So then when we activate this NPC, this is that same script from the previous tutorial for the random name array, and it's just all in one script. So instead of having it be single scripts, it's all in one script. I just put a line in here to make it easier to read, but it is exactly the same. It's just the variable value is changing, right? 8 instead of, I think it was 19 in the other tutorial, and I think 5 was a 20 perhaps. And then we're adding this part to it, which is the part that removes that option in the array, and so that's gone, so that it's only there's 5 values. If you go to the shopkeeper 5 times, you're going to hear 5 different things before it could potentially repeat. And the bottom portion is exactly the same as the top, only it's doing it for the farewell. And then down here, if you recall from the previous tutorial, this is where there's a conditional branch, and it's basically saying, hey, if the $game variables dot value 8 is empty, essentially. It's equal, and then there's quotation marks with nothing there. It's checking to see if the array is empty, then we will turn off self switch A, which will take us back to page 1, and then it will reset the array. And you notice that I only did this for one of the arrays because since there's 5 in each array, once the greeting is empty, then the farewell will be empty as well. So you only have to check one in the way I did this. You only have to check one, and if it's empty, then it will essentially go back to page 1 to auto run, reload, and then you could do it again and again and again. So essentially, that's all these are. It's just kind of a concept of saying, hey, maybe shopkeepers, innkeeper, tavern folks, certain groups of NPCs, soldiers, guards, whatever. It's reasonable that they might all say something similar when you talk to them. And so it was just showing a few different ways that you could do it, or you could do it any of these other ways that were done. You could mix and match. It's just all, you take it all together and you decide how you can, take pieces of it and make the most engaging, the most dynamic, the most, varied dialogue options that you can, so that when the player's in there, they don't feel like all the NPCs are the same. They don't feel like they're just repeating the same thing over and over again. I know I've played lots of games where it's quickly apparent that the NPCs either say one thing or they say maybe two or three things, and they just the more times you click on them, if you have to go back to them, the more obvious it is. So anyway, I hope this helps. Again, this is pretty much the last video in this dialogue series. I have some other things, unless I decide to play around some more and just really make something a lot larger with a lot different options with the dialogue type stuff. This will probably be the end of this. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, sign up for those notifications. And I really hope that this helps someone, and that the more tutorials that are out there, the easier it is for new people like myself to find what they need when they have a specific thing they want to do. So beyond all the basic tutorials, which are awesome, they're great, but when you're looking to do something specific, it's kind of nice to be able to find tutorials that are more spot on with what you want. So thank you very much, folks. I'm glad you found me. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy game making. All right, have a nice night.